Okay, well, I got bored with all that cleaning and everything else, and because I've been doing some spraying, I've not been able to do any cleaning because I can't fill the air with dust from all the rust and everything else. So I thought, well, let's pull out one of the gearboxes and actually have a look at the brakes if we can get them off. So this is a drum brake model rather than the later disc brake. I probably could fit the discs, but the whole feel of the car is older, and joked with Chris about putting a bigger engine in, but the reality is that it's a car at the end of the day. It's going to be slow no matter what you do with it, because you're always going to get stuck behind something. So so standard clutch gearbox with bell housing for the clutch. I'm going to have to find out, double check what actual clutch mechanism is fitted to this gearbox compared to fitted to the gearbox that came off this car. I also don't even know whether this gearbox actually is a working gearbox. Now I know my brother said that he had issues with the gearbox and there was a spare gearbox. I guess we'll find out. Anyway, so the task for tonight is to see if I can pull this drum off and go from there. Okay, so these are the bolts that held the drive shaft on. So the end of that just bolts onto there. That one is one of those things that is still waiting for cleaning. Now in theory this should just pull off, and actually this feels a little bit loose. Oh. Now normally with these you do actually need to get behind and slacken off the adjusters, but this one actually feels as though it's loose and it's going to come off straight off. A little bit dirty, a little bit rusty. I was expecting these to be rusted onto the pads, but they're not. That's quite clean, so that's good. Now, okay, so fairly standard drum. We have the two pads here that are pushed out by the slave cylinder. Now they are adjusted through eccentrics in the back behind here that push out the tops, and there's also adjustment in the pivots here because they pivot from here outwards. There's also smaller eccentrics here, so to adjust them properly you've got to do both. And in addition there's the handbrake cable, because on a 2CV the handbrakes actually operate the front brakes, not the rear. And this cable, as we can see, you may not be able to see, but if we're pulling the cable, it is actually supposed to operate the brakes, but I'm not sure whether it's actually doing very much at the moment. I also need a new dead blow hammer. This one is showing its age. So let's move all this stuff out of the way and then see if we can actually get into these. And these are surprisingly oily, which I wasn't expecting. And we come across the first non-standard things here. This should be a castellated nut like this one with a split pin through it. Stop these coming off, and they shouldn't really be covered in grease either. It's not really ideal, because if there's grease inside here it can migrate actually onto the linings, which we don't want. This one is just double nutted. Now let's see if we can probably can also make some new split pins, I would guess. I don't know what I've got, quite a few, but well, certainly none of the right sizes. Okay, so those are not 11s. There's one thing to see. We have an eccentric here. It looks quite worn. Not at all convinced that's supposed to be looking like that. Especially since this one isn't, so it looks like I need a new eccentric nut. I don't know what's happened to that one. It's had a lump chewed out of it. It looks like I will be breaking down both sets of, because I have the two gearboxes, so I have two sets of drums, and it looks like I'm going to need both at this rate. Clear how that handbrake mechanism operates. Okay, so to remove the pads, it should be just a question of removing these strange little clips that need to be pushed in on the spring and rotated. So they come out. There's a little I'm not quite sure what you call it here. It has a squared end on it that sits in the receiver there. All the good fun. So with those off, in theory, the spring is hiding behind there. Which is the handbrake mechanism. This is just so oily. Right. Okay. So one spring. I bet that's going to be fun putting back in. Just be longer on this side. So one brake shoe, and yeah, it's just contaminated with oil, but also it's been cut on this section, so it's missing the. Now I know sometimes it's cut away here a bit too. I know that sometimes it's done for clearance issues on the drums, so maybe that's the case here. Right, now down here is the handbrake mechanism. So okay, what I'm guessing it's doing is when you pull the cable here, which hooks in the bottom here, and it pushes this shoe out, except this is the shoe that's missing this part, so not quite sure how that works. Anyway, so those are the two. For the shoes, as I say, this is just covered in dirt and grease. So these are the adjusters. They're adjusted quite a way out at the moment. Should normally be a 14, I think, for these. So adjuster remove. Let's get on it. Or not. Right, that was a bit stuck. So it's a snail adjuster. Quite simply, you move it this way, if you can. It moves and pushes the shoes further out, but that is actually quite seized, so we need to get in there with that, because this is probably going to be the same. Probably shouldn't be providing any lubrication within this, but honestly there is so much dirt and oily shit on this that I'm not so worried. As this is what we're here for today, is to have a look at this stuff and get it to work. Full of oily brake residue. Just remove the little pins, and this one's even got its own little hole in the bell housing to come out with. Okay, right, well I'm going to carry on with trying to clean some of the grease and shit off of this, and we'll come back to it.